Following the triple murders, the suspects escaped by scaling the apartment terrace and fleeing in an auto rickshaw and then on a sports bike. The duo fled towards Tiruvannamalai in Tamil Nadu when their bike broke down midway. Kenneth panicked that public spaces would expose them if Shweta broke down. He then asked her to take a bus to Puducherry alone. Both of them decided to travel separately, and by that time the KR Puram police had mobilized 6 special teams across neighbouring states. Shweta was tracked down and arrested in Puducherry at a hotel room near the railway station. Later, Kenneth was also arrested while he was walking out of a liquor shop in Puducherry by the Union Territory Police. Belly still with me on the broadcast. Belly, of course, now we've sort of pieced together what happened in the aftermath of the triple murders as well, how these two managed to escape the crime scene and how they were then nabbed by the police officials.
Appear soon after these murders, that is a day before, a day before Muthulakshmi was murdered, and then the next day, father Somasundar and the younger daughter, younger sibling Supriya had been murdered at their flat, and they pretty well know that Somasundar, who had just escaped out after getting stabbed, would have gotten some crowd underneath that building. So Kenneth and Shweta decided not to take that path. What they did was they kind of jumped off the balcony to an adjacent building, from which they came to the ground floor, and then they were seen taking an auto rickshaw towards the HL area, the Doddanikundi area, wherein they were kind of panicked, and they after reaching the HL house in an auto rickshaw, it was then Kenneth took his sports bike, and they both of them had plans to head towards Pondicherry. So this was on the way towards Chennai, the Tiruvannamalai route from Bengaluru, and when their bike reached Tiruvannamalai, it broke down again. The two were in panicked state, and it was then that Kenneth had realized that if they would travel together, if in case Shweta would break down, then it would garner attention from the public, and they would learn for sure that something is wrong, and they could land in trouble. So that was when he decided, or both of them decided, that they would travel, they would split their ways and they will travel, but to the same destination, that is Puducherry. So they took a bus, is what the police say. Both of them took different buses, and they had headed to Puducherry, wherein the police were tracking 6 teams that were mobilized by the KR Puram police, were tracking down the movements of both of them through local intelligence, because their phones were switched off, and they learned that Shweta was indeed headed towards Puducherry, and they got local intelligence information stating that she was kind of trying to take a hotel room near a railway station when she was rounded up and arrested. So later on, manhunt was launched by another team of police who suspected that Kenneth also would have been holed up in the same locality or somewhere in Puducherry, and they kind of activated their local intelligence, and then they distributed the photographs of different angles of Kenneth in their jurisdiction, wherein there was a kind of information saying that there was a similar looking person sitting alone in a bar, and he was drinking. So the police had surrounded that bar and got to know that it was Kenneth. Once they confirmed that it was Kenneth, and they found him walking out of the bar, he was arrested and questioned. He confirmed that that was the person, and then he was handed over to the Bengaluru police, who are
all right, Belly. All right, Belly. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time and sharing all these details very, very comprehensively. We will continue to track this case very, very closely. In the meantime, we are shifting focus to some other developments.